Sup, freaks? It's your boy Marty here. To introduce this rip of Rabbit Hole Recap, Matt and I just had a high-qual rip, per usual. Fun discussion. Crazy times we're living in today, in this day. I think you guys are going to like this one, as always. Just a little PSA. If you guys haven't subscribed to this podcast on your podcast network of choice, please make sure you do. It helps us get more exposure, as we may be turning into a bull market here. Obviously, that'll bring more attention to Bitcoin and more eyes on the space, and we want to make sure that people are getting the quality information we believe they deserve, and we believe that we provide that quality information here at Tales from the Crypt and our weekly Rabbit Hole Recap. So, spread the word, subscribe, maybe rate, review the podcast on your local podcasting network if they allow you to. That helps with visibility and goes a long way, and just, hey, lets us know that we're on the right track. And by no means by forcing you freaks to do that. If you feel it's deserved and you have the time and are willing to go out of your way to do it, it would be much appreciated. Love you, freaks. This episode is brought to you by our good friends at Unchained Capital. You should know all about them, but if you don't know about them, let me tell you about them. They're helping Bitcoiners, number one, not sell their Bitcoin. And maybe not number one. They're providing financial services for Bitcoiners with a security-first mindset. Security is number one in their mind at all times. They want to make sure that users are using Bitcoin properly and securely and maintaining as much sovereignty and control over their UTXOs throughout their whole product suite. And this is exemplified in their Vaults product, which allows you to create a 2 of 3 multi-sig quorum in which you hold 2 of 3 keys and Unchained holds the other. And if you ever want to move your UTXOs out of the multi-sig address, you can do so yourself. You always have autonomy to move in and out of the vault as you please under your own volition without the need for Unchained to do anything. But if you ever get in a pinch and you don't have one of those 2 keys, you need to move your UTXOs, Unchained is there to be that second key in that 2 of 3 multi-signature so that you can move your UTXOs. On top of that, they have their collateralized loan program. If you don't want to sell your Bitcoin and you just need some cash, you need some liquidity, Unchained is offering same-day US dollar liquidity. You just put some Bitcoin up as collateral, you get US dollar sent to your bank account, and you are able to hold your Bitcoin as long as you're keeping up with the collateral margin and paying back that loan. You can get liquidity without having to sell. It's actually tax beneficial as well. On top of that, they've got a Bitcoin mindset, and they're giving back to the community in the form of open source projects, particularly Caravan, which is the open source multi-sig quorum that I described and that they use for their Vaults program. So if you don't want Unchained involved at all and you just want to create a multi-sig setup by yourself without Unchained involved at all, Caravan is there for you to download. You can set up as many multi-sig quorums as you want. You can get pretty creative with the N of M key setup, and you can set up multi-sigs with friends, family, whoever you want. On top of that, they're working on other open source projects like Hermit Slip 39, and they got their incredible blog series, which includes Parker Lewis's Gradually Then Suddenly, which is a great series to send to newbies and pre-coiners who are looking to learn about Bitcoin. Will Cole, Drew Von Saul, Joe Kelly, Phil Geiger, Buck. I always want to say Presley for Buck's last name. I'm pretty sure it's Persley. Are writing incredible content, educating Bitcoiners about what they're building at Unchained and how to properly use Bitcoin. So go to www.unchained-capital.com. That's www.unchained-capital.com. Check them out. Check out all these products. Let them know we sent you, and let them know what you think. They're always open to feedback. This episode is also brought to you by good friends at the motherfucking Cash App. You freaks already know all about them. But if you don't know about them, let me tell you about them. Cash App's helping you stack sats, send sats, receive sats, and sell sats if you so please. They're also making sats the standard, so you're not buying fractions of Bitcoin anymore. You can buy whole sats. It's a very powerful concept, changing the unit of account from Bitcoin to sats. On top of that, they've got their Boost program, which allows you to go to partner merchants and save money when you use the Boost card, which lets you personalize it with a debit card. You get your signature on there, Bitcoin sign, Lightning, whatever you're thinking. On top of that, they have Cash App investing. This is relatively new. If you want to stack slivers of stonks, if you're into the stonk market, Cash App investing allows you to buy as little as $1 of a particular stonk. If your favorite stonk's a little too expensive, fear not. You can buy as little as $1. And because this is all connected to your bank account, there's no 4 to 5 day waiting periods. You can start stacking and stonks, slivers of stonks, and sats today. Cash App may even be your bank account. They're offering account numbers and routing numbers so you can get your paychecks direct deposited into the app. Cash App Investing is a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. And as always, make sure you use the code STACKINGSATS. That's STACKINGSATS. When you download the app for the first time, you're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. Owls belong in barns and on the lacrosse field. Enjoy this rapid rabbit hole recap. Take care.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
Sup, freaks? Welcome back to Rabbit Hole Recap. Sitting across from Matt Odell, who had a teeth pulled. You went straight Novocaine.
I had a single tooth pulled, yes.
A teeth pulled. I can't speak. I've been warning Matt. I'm exhausted right now. I didn't sleep well last night after the Whitney Webb episode. But this is the first episode in quite a while where I'm the only one drinking. You're
Doctor's
drinking
orders.
LaCroix.
No drinking today.
I got a high noon. Vodka soda in a can. They mix it for you so you don't have to.
No drinking and no smoking.
Who? For how long?
I don't know, just for today. But I'm being a good boy today. But yeah, it was a success. You know, a dentist is one of the true humbling day-to-day experiences in our lives. I feel like you really are just I'm completely in their hands. You know, they got their saw in there, they got their fucking tools and everything, and I have no idea what's going on. You know, I'm just like trust in your judgment.
Well, their hands are in you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the other way around.
Exactly.
Their hands are completely in you, in your mouth. I don't like the dentist. Actually, we didn't talk about this last week because we talked about this. This appointment you had yesterday last week. I was supposed to get some teeth pulled before the whole COVID thing happened. I got to figure out when to hop back in there and actually.
You got to get that done, dude.
I know.
They deteriorate really quick, you know, and if you let it fester, it gets worse.
Teeth, man. I sort of just want to go full veneers. Say fuck it.
just get all caps.
Never deal with it again. I think
you
that's
still have to deal with
though.
it because my dad's caps fall out and shit.
Yeah. The dentist. I don't pity them. Isn't that it's toll booth operators and dentists? They're two of the highest rates of suicide because they're very unhappy.
Really?
I think so.
The dentist
Could
I
be
went
wrong.
to is a new dentist that I've never used before, and it's a husband-wife team. They were fantastic. They were super happy.
Well, maybe every dentist office should have a husband-wife team. You got somebody there to support you.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Good for them. They're probably crushing it. Fuck, man. Not a big list this week.
I told them I had the
list.
podcast today. I was like, don't fuck up my mouth too much. I got the podcast tomorrow.
What did they ask you what the podcast is about? Did you get to shill Bitcoin?
I told them to subscribe and to enable auto downloads at least, even if they didn't want to listen.
Yeah, and if you freaks are out there, you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, enable auto downloads. Does great for visibility on iTunes and Spotify. Actually, I don't know about Spotify. Like I was saying, pretty short list when comparing it to weeks of recent past here. But you were mentioning it feels like a busy week, but it's just the price is gone. has gone up quite a bit.
When we recorded last RHR, it was 9,200 ish, right?
Yeah, it was like 92 or 91 even. Let me open up my journal here.
Was the last one? The last one was the Twitter hack episode. Or was
Yeah,
that 2 episodes ago.
It was 2 episodes.
The
2
Twitter hack
episodes
was
ago.
at like 9,100, 9,200.
Yeah, 2 episodes ago it would have been around 92.12. Tuesday, July 14th, it was 92.12, and I wrote it down in my journal.
That was 2 episodes ago.
2 episodes
But
ago.
I think
so
last episode was also.
it was below 10K.
I think it was like 92-ish.
Yeah, I mean, it consolidated for a little while. We were talking about it. We said, hey, volatility's on the way, whether it be up or down.
And
we were
it went
unsure. It turned out to be up.
It feels so good. It's the best drug ever when it goes
Stock
up.
to flow validated right now? Maybe.
Ridiculous.
We're sitting at $11,134 according to Clark Moody's Bitcoin dashboard. Clark Moody, who we'll be speaking with tomorrow morning. Very pumped for that.
Looking forward to that.
He added some new metrics this week.
Can we just? How crazy was fucking? Everyone like lost their shit on Twitter just on that one move. And I want to remind people that we're still $200 short from last year's local high when I told everyone to market buy Bitcoin 2019. We still have not hit that point yet.
So everybody that bought that day is still down.
Still down.
On that
Unless
particular
if they dollar cost averaged, then they're not.
Yes.
Because we got a lot cheaper prices since then.
I saw somebody was sharing a chart in a back channel. Something like 97. If you bought Bitcoin, 97.7% of Bitcoin's existence, if you had bought it, like you'd 97.7% of people are up. Right? That's not the correct.
I think it was based on UTXOs, right? It was like realized cap.
I don't even know if it was realized cap. I think it was just taking in price.
Because it wasn't including custodial exchanges and people that were just on custodial exchanges.
I think the way to properly phrase this is that price has been below where it was at its highest point in the last couple of days, 97.7% at the time. I think that's the correct way to phrase it.
Maybe we're talking about different things. But what I saw was an on-chain metric.
The HODL waves are going up. The 1-year HODL waves at like 63%.
Yeah, I'm bittersweet on that. I don't want to see the HODL waves go up.
Because you want people mixing?
You should be coin joining, You should be opening channels and shit. Like, what's going on, guys?
Complacency, man. Complacency.
Fees are going to go up. It's gonna get prohibitively expensive to coin join.
I saw you tweeting that earlier this week. They are going up.
I'm feeling the fee FOMO. You feeling the fee FOMO?
I am. Hand up here, though. I haven't sent a transaction in a little over a week, so I don't think I've experienced that. I have remixes going on right now that are just on autopilot. But this isn't on the list. And actually, while we're on this subject, I'll bring it up. Merch from BitGo and one of the maintainers of Bitcoin Stack Exchange put out a great piece on UTXO management, particularly how enterprise users should manage their UTXOs to avoid high fee pressure as much as possible. Very informative piece. Did you read that by chance?
No, we don't have it on the list, right?
No, I don't think so. I should have threw it on there, but it just came to my mind. I read it yesterday morning.
What was the synopsis?
He just basically laid out strategies for enterprise users and different
it.
types of users.
If you Google merch BitGo, it just comes right up.
Yeah. Talking about how to move UTXOs between cold, warm, and hot wallets and how to consolidate transactions and the best
for like
formats to
exchanges
use.
And stuff, right?
Yeah. It's pretty informative.
And then I think Francis tweeted from Bull Bitcoin that they intend to open source their batching algorithm or whatever.
Is that included in Cipher
Yeah, because it's like a plug-in to Cipher. And the reasoning is because non-custodial, it's a lot more difficult to operate one of these non-custodial exchanges in a high-fee environment because you have to send a transaction every time. someone sends you money. But if you like, think about it. Like if you're doing custodial, someone buys from you and they might not withdraw for however long, and then when they do withdraw, you can do like you can very simply do a batch setup where you like wait 30 minutes and send them all out together.
Yeah. This is why I'm excited for OpsCTV. It lets you pre-program this stuff. And actually, we'll talk about it later, but I'm pretty sure what Nadav, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name here, Iviji, dropped. Sheshak, his Twitter and GitHub name, Minsk. I don't even know how to pronounce that either. Minsk. That's how I've been saying it in my mind, at least.
I haven't tried to pronounce it.
And but I think you can do similar stuff with that as well. But we'll talk about that in detail later. Staying on the dashboard here, talked about new information that Clark added this week. Probably the best information he's added in some time. Commodities markets priced in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin priced in gold, Bitcoin versus gold market cap, and Bitcoin priced in oil, which is probably, like, everybody's talking about Bitcoin in US dollars, but I want to see Bitcoin in gold and compared to gold's market cap. So right now, Bitcoin priced in gold will get you one Bitcoin will get you 5.7 ounces of gold, and Bitcoin is 1.64% of gold's market cap. A lot of potential upside there if Bitcoin is to overtake gold as the predominant store of value in the world. And Bitcoin priced in
280 barrels of oil for my Bitcoin.
200, right? That's going to go up significantly. I bet that'll hit at least 1,000 barrels in this bull run. And so, yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, we don't talk price a lot here. We try to stay away from it, but fuck it. It's been fucking boring for so long. Let's bull dream here. If this is a bull market, like how do you think it plays out, right?
But who knows? Maybe that means we're about to dump because I'm just like ridiculously bullish.
Well, don't tell anybody to market buy yet.
I mean, just market buy every week, responsibly.
Yeah, I forget who. Maybe it was Robert Breedlove tweeted it out. Made a very interesting point, and I think it's confirmed with all the headlines that have been coming out and the conversations that are going on and reports like the one that Fidelity dropped earlier today. That this bull market's going to be dominated by institutional investors using Bitcoin as a macro play, as a hard asset.
Is it for real this time, or is it still a meme?
Oh, right.
Fidelity's paper was an aspirational store of value.
Right. Shout out to Rhea. Rhea's last name's escaping me right now.
Butoria?
Yes, Butoria. She has incredible research, and I'm pretty sure she's a freak too.
Yeah, I mean, we saw backed this week with the pump, both backed and CME hit all-time highs. Backed with volume, just like straight spiked, and CME with open interest.
Yeah, it was like the highest volume by far. The chart looked unnatural almost, how high that spike was.
Well, we broke. So like right now we're sitting like right below 9,000 sats per dollar, right? So 1,000 sats per dollar is 100K.
Did we get there?
Seems 1,000 sats per dollar seems really reasonable to me, right?
Yeah,
or is that crazy? Is that like moon math?
No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty conservative. If we're talking about like the height of the next cycle and like
that's
where the mania level hits,
that's a 10x cycle.
Like I think we could go 20x at least. I wouldn't be surprised if we go like 250 or above.
All I know is for like the last year,
the blow off top, like
the last year in my mental math, has been 1,000,000 sats is $100. We've gone up, we've gone down. We went to 13, we went down to 3. Now we went back up and we're sitting at 9 for however long. But the whole time, 1,000,000 sats were for $100, right? 10,000 sats per dollar. So I wonder how long it takes me. Even if we pump, it's going to take me a little bit to to like reconfigure my mental model there. Like I've anchored on that price.
It's not a bad problem to have, but I have too. I've had $100 as a million satoshis in my mind for quite some time. It's good to see us break out of that consolidation. If anything, it's just like a little bit more exciting.
Well, I mean,
the memes. Hey, shout out to Bitstein coming out with some great memes.
Well, he's been quiet for the last couple of months. He had been taking a step back. So then, as soon as it started getting roaring, he just came in with the vengeance. It had been all pent up.
That one, the one with that. Excuse me if I'm making terrible assumptions here. The Eastern European guy making the high.
Yeah.
I love that one so much. That one gets me every fucking time.
It's a very good one.
Yeah. Well, that was price talk. We're not gonna focus on it too much. It's pumping. We'll see. I bet $100 trillion USD. Plan B is excited right now. Maybe his stock to flow model is being validated, but we shall see. Continuing on Clark's dashboard on the more pertinent things, the next difficulty retarget is in 1,598 blocks, is estimated to be on August 11th, and it's pretty flat right now. Actually, I'm looking at Clark's dashboard. The block time's coming in at 10 minutes per block right now. So it's coming in exactly at the target. And the estimated difficulty change is 0.1% upwards on the 11th. And that is obviously subject to change as we are almost a little less than 2 weeks away. So that mean there was a difficulty adjustment between last week and this week?
Yes.
Between their episodes? All right. So the difficulty adjusted downward 3% about. What's that, 618 blocks ago, according to right now. I don't know the exact date that happened. Mempool, like we said, starting to fill up a little bit. It's 51,400 transactions are in the mempool, Clark's mempool right now. Blocks to clear 66, so that number's going up. Like Matt said, be cognizant. I think I saw Michael Tidwell tweeting that if you're sending transactions at 2 sats per byte, they've been clearing within a couple days, so just be conscious if you're sending transactions. We're approaching the weekend.
Let's talk about fees a little bit.
Yeah,
just to prep the freaks, the new freaks we have here that were in here in 2017. So the biggest thing that affects your fee price is how many inputs you have on the input side. How many transactions need to be combined to reach the amount that you're sending. So
and
let's
your
say
inputs. What? Your inputs are your UTXO. So UTXO is a future input in a transaction.
Let's say you receive to a wallet a transaction with 100 sats, a transaction with 150 sats, and a transaction with 250 sats. And you need to send, what did I say, 350, 400, 500 sats. So you need to send 500 sats. So you have to send all 3 of those transactions. They all get combined on the input side, and then on the output side is one transaction for 500. If it was 450, it'd be one UTXO for 450, and then a change output for 50 coming back to you. So the main cost you have is on the input side, and then also what type of addresses those input UTXOs are. If it's native SegWit, it starts with, if they all start with BC1, you're going to have the lowest fees. Then if it's wrapped and it starts with a 3, then you're going to have the second tier. And then if they're legacy addresses 1s, you're going to have the highest fees. And then, go on.
I believe wrapped SegWit is something like 15% higher than native SegWit.
Yeah.
In Bec32. Yeah.
So then on top of that, fees are not a static thing. If you go to mempool.space, or if you have a MyNode, they have it built in, so you can run it locally. You can see what the graph looks like on what transactions are waiting to be confirmed, and it's a range. So if you're willing to wait longer, you can choose a lower fee than if you wanted to confirm right away. Especially if you're sending to yourself, there's no disadvantage of picking a lowest fee possible because you can always bump it in the future. You're just sending to yourself. There's no trust there. And if you're receiving a low fee transaction, you can include it in a future transaction to bump the fee yourself. So you can always bump a fee that comes to you. I think we nailed a lot of things there.
Yeah. But as the mempool gets backed up too, also take into consideration that nodes propagating your transactions via their mempools, they're gonna take priority to higher fees too. So if you have a really low
they might
fee,
drop your transaction.
Yeah, you may have to rebroadcast that at some point.
But then you could just rebroadcast it.
Yeah, with a fresh fee, but be aware of that.
On like a practical point of view, like right now, like if I go to mempool.space, what is the one confirm amount? Looks like it's about 150 sats per byte. It's pretty much ridiculous to pay that high of one. You can probably get confirmed in a couple blocks if you pick something a little bit lower, like a 130 or a 120. If you're willing to wait at least a day or so, like instead of dropping all the way, this is from a practical standpoint, instead of dropping all the way down to 1 sat per byte, you drop down to like 10 or 15.
Yeah, Clark's dashboard saying 11 sats per byte will get you in a day.
Exactly, and that's significantly less than the 160 or whatever to get into the first block, and it'll be significantly quicker than if you try and save those fucking 10 sats per byte on the transaction for like limited extra cost. Yeah,
and staying true to the don't trust, verify mantra. Make sure you're checking these sites with fee estimations and not. Some wallet estimates are better than others, but it's always best to get a second opinion outside of your wallet and make sure you're able to manually input that as well.
So what I foresee is, I remember in 2017, once the fees started getting high, what they do is to reduce their future fees, they consolidate all their transactions. And what you do is you like generate a receive address in your wallet, and then you do a send all to that receive address, and then all of a sudden all your coins in that wallet are in a single UTXO, and your fees will be the lowest fees possible. This is absolutely horrible for privacy. So if
Mr. Hoddle's worst mistake, he said. I think he said on Twitter.
So that's my concern. My concern is fees go up, and the incentive is going to be to do this horrible privacy practice because you'll save substantially on the fees, which is why people should be experimenting with CoinJoin now before fees get ridiculous.
Yes, and develop good practices in moving your UTXOs from whether it be a KYC'd exchange or non-KYC'd exchange. Try to make sure that you're able to send, or like you're sweeping those wallets after a certain threshold's met. So you're not just sending, let's say like 150 sats per transaction. Just wait till you hit 1 million, 10 million sats.
Yeah, like if you're on Cash App and you're doing $5 a buy, like don't withdraw your $5. Wait till it hits $100 or whatever.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up with a ton of tiny little transactions, and it can just really fuck you. Especially if you get hit with fee FOMO, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's never gonna happen." Because you can always cover your ass in the future by doing like small, like doing certain transactions at low sat per byte. But if you think it's a runaway and we're not going to get back down to low sat per byte, you can end up making big mistakes there.
Yes. Learn for you freaks that weren't around during December 2017, January 2018. Coinbase ran into dust issues. So dust is when you have UTXOs that aren't spendable because they don't reach the lowest threshold of the current fee market. And
they have less in them than the fees cost to move them.
Yes. And Coinbase had something like $3 million worth of dust stored in UTXOs.
I thought it was even more than that. Wasn't it like an insolvency risk type of amount?
No, I don't think so. I think it was like $3 million or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's still a significant amount of money. And they were a company that's been around since 2012 made that mistake. So try to learn from their mistake and
well,
prepare
they also thought the block size was going to rise, so they didn't have to fucking worry about it.
Yeah. Well, it didn't, and that bit them in the ass. But and so these fees come in waves. Who knows if this next wave will be bigger and last longer? But it is interesting. Like the network, it's sort of fascinating. The network's like a living, breathing being where like fees go up a certain point, people are just like unwilling to pay them. The mania dies down. The fee market
we have more
naturally
outlet
calibrates.
valves this time, like more relief valves, because we do have, SegWit adoption is still, my guess would be like 50% or something, right? There's a site that tracks it.
I think it's higher. I think it's like 60 or above.
But there's definitely more services that can adopt SegWit, and then Lightning adoption is like basically nothing, right? So like we could see the ultimate incentive to get Lightning set up is high fees, sustained high fees.
Yeah, and
it's like a relief valve.
And again, I highly recommend, if you guys haven't already, go read the article that Merch put out earlier this week. And he explained that in 2017, 2018, using Coinbase as an example, that enterprises weren't even ready for it, and they weren't prepared for it. And they didn't understand batching or using SegWit. And so this time around, I'm sure
we're at 64%.
Yeah.
Transaction fee.info, 64% of transactions spent are SegWit right now.
Yeah. So this is part of the double-edged sword of self-sovereignty and extreme ownership that comes with Bitcoin. You have to think ahead. It's right in line with low time preference and planning ahead. Is planning to be able to use your UTXOs on the network and making sure that each UTXO will be spendable at some point in the future where there is a higher fee regime. So be aware, plan accordingly. Hopefully this was helpful advice, actionable advice. That's what we aim to do here at RHR. We ain't even left the dashboard yet. Like I said, though, it's a light news week, so we can shoot the shit a little bit. Should we jump into shout-outs before we...
Yeah, let's hit them with some shout-outs.
Right,
I heard we have a very special one in there.
We got a very special one. We'll start with that one. This is for you, Matt. Matt Odell has a cluck mentality from our boy Vake. CLUCK. Shout out to you, Vake. Love you, Vake.
Thanks, Vake. Vake promised me he was going to give us a shout-out after he took my money in poker on Tuesday.
Did he take more money than the shout-out cost? I hope so.
Yes. So I guess that was kind of my shout-out. I kind of bought that shout-out for myself.
Big fan of Vake.
Appreciate it, Vake. Thanks for the kind words.
If you're ever up north, Vake, let us know. I hope all is well in Florida. I hope we don't see you in a Florida Man headline at some point.
He's supposed to be going to BitBlock Boom, so we should see him soon.
Well, boss. What's that, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month? Exactly a month from now?
Yeah, pretty much. A little bit less.
BitBlock Boom, Dallas. What are we putting any odds that the state of Texas tries to shut it down?
Gary's bullish. It's hard not to be bullish with Gary when Gary's bullish, so I am bullish as well.
He probably has the cause for most concern in this situation too. So if he's bullish, our Bitcoin boomer friend, maybe we should be too. Did you freeze? You're just staring at me.
I think I mean you froze for me. I don't know.
Okay, we froze there a little bit. All right, second shout out. We appreciate your shout outs. You can shout out at tftc.io/contribute. This one, again, got to read it verbatim. What are you waiting for? Grab the bull by the horns, stack sats, marry the person you love, make or adopt a baby, grow your family, and tell your family members and friends you love them. No homo. This is your one chance. Life is short. Make it sweet. Longtime preference state of mine. You freaks are my fam. I love you. No homo. Shout out to that anon freak.
We don't know who it was?
Don't know who it
Sounds
was.
like Marty made that shout out.
I mean, I agree with a lot of the message in the shout out, but
You were
was
quite
not me.
passionate about it. Well, anyway,
not-
we appreciate
we
appreciate you freaks.
Yes, we love you freaks. You guys are our fam too. And we talked about that situation. That would be laundering money. I think we came on to the conclusion.
Well, yeah, if you actually sent money in, yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't me.
No.
I've been scared away from doing that. So.
What a good boy.
Speaking of good boys, we're gonna go the opposite of good boy here. Bad boys. Ledger. What the fuck? Ledger, a company that is notorious for hacking other hardware wallet companies, couldn't secure their database. They had a customer personal information hack that leaked a bunch of info.
The marketing database got hacked.
Yeah, and it started leaking in February, I believe. Somebody sent me the email.
I think there was two different. I think this leak was supposedly a month ago, and Ledger says that the previously disclosed leak was not a leak. That was fake, at least according to Ledger.
Yeah, the one where all the data, like, we talked about that one, right?
Right, that one we talked about. Ledger
That was
denies
fake.
to this day that was a vulnerability, but
I believe that. I think that was like a fake hacker.
right. And then a month ago, there was a different hack, and 1 million email addresses were taken, and 9,500 names and or phone numbers and or
Social Security and
no, not
address,
Social
correct?
Security and or addresses where they lived, where they got it shipped to.
Yeah, million.
No Social Security numbers. No one gives
million email
Ledger their
addresses.
Social Security number.
That's a good point. 1 million email addresses, 9,500 names, numbers, and home addresses.
And or for the 9,500, it's like a subset. That's what they're
Yes.
saying. And they, if you're part of the 9,500, they emailed you specifically what information was taken. But some people presumably had their home addresses taken if they've shipped hardware wallets to their home addresses.
Yes, but I do believe this hack started earlier in the year, and it was brought to their attention a month ago because of their bounty program, correct? Like they have a bounty program, and somebody participating in that program pointed it out to them and said, hey, this may have started like earlier in the year, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, though.
They said it was exploited on June 25th was when everything was taken.
Okay. All right, I'm thinking of something else then.
I mean, there's people claiming on Twitter that there was another hack earlier, but Ledger's still denying that.
Yes.
Anyway, this is all moot. You should assume all of these databases are going to get hacked at some point. Like this is what you have to operate under, right? And there's like simple steps you can take to reduce that threat footprint. Obviously, like if you can buy these things in person, that's preferable. But unfortunately, Bitcoin hardware isn't sold at Best Buy. So it's like you can't go and buy with cash. So unless like they have them at conferences sometimes, some of these cities have Bitcoin stores that resell them, which could be useful. If you're ordering it online, you don't want to use a credit card as a payment because the billing address of the credit card can link to you. You want to use a VPN so they don't have your IP address. And for shipping, you don't want to ship it to your home address. There's these remailer services you can use where they automatically ship it. It adds like a hop, tour style to your thing. Then of course you're trusting the remailer service, right? But at least you don't have it in a honeypot on like a Bitcoin specific hardware thing. Then they have PO boxes, which you're probably gonna have to do KYC for, right? But once again, you're reducing the threat. One idea I like. Yeah, office. But one idea I really like is if you're moving out or a friend's moving out, they're getting a new apartment. This is good for city dwellers particularly. They're getting a new apartment. Just get a shit ton of hardware shipped to the apartment right before they leave, like the last month before they go out. It's a great idea.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
And it does bring you peace of mind when you move from an apartment where you've sent stuff to. It's like, don't have to worry about that shit anymore.
So you should assume this shit is going to get compromised.
Yeah, but number one, assume that. But number two, there could be better practices, data cleansing practices by these hardware providers. I saw Trezor sort of stepped in and rubbed Ledger's nose in the shit, claiming that they have a 90-day data scrubbing policy where they'll scrub the contents of their e-com store after every 90 days or on a rolling 90-day basis.
Yeah, I mean it should be applauded, but people have to remember there's no way for us to verify this. This is the same way why like you should use VPNs that claim to keep no logs. There's no way that we can verify they're keeping no logs. Trezor and Ledger both have address information on their servers for people that are using their nodes and stuff like that. So there's always you should just assume, you should operate under the assumption that they won't be scrubbed. We should advocate for them to scrub shit, but you should also at the same time just operate under the assumption that it's not being effectively scrubbed.
That's a good practice.
And then I also want to say, like, I feel like Ledger they could have done it earlier. But if you're with these types of disclosures, it's good that they did a public disclosure, which we still haven't seen BlockFi do, even though BlockFi had more information taken. And then they did a targeted disclosure to the 9,500 that was a subset. So that's good at least. And then the one other thing I would say is, these are issues that as Bitcoin adoption goes up, they kind of get obviated because just everyone's assumed to be a Bitcoiner. So it's not like, this is a list of Bitcoiners that have hardware wallets, right? It's just like everyone has one. So it does get reduced over time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And while we're on the public service announcement tip here, I think our boy Bashko, who's one of the Reddit mods, Twitter OG, he made a very good point this week too. Like, make sure if we are going into a bull market here, and I've experienced this personally in 2017, like if it goes up and you have a good amount of your stash sitting on one hardware wallet, it gets stressful. That hardware wallet gets heavy in your hand. So to avoid that potential future feeling, make sure you get your security down pat. Whether it's whatever is most comfortable to you, whether it's multi-sig with a trusted friend or family member, collaborative custody with a third-party provider, just splitting it up between many single SIGs that you're comfortable protecting and feel confident that you're able to protect them. Think about that now and not when the price runs up to the crazy levels we were talking about earlier.
And it was really hard to get hardware wallets at that point too. They were all back ordered.
Yeah.
I guess a good rule of thumb is your security should be 10x current price, right? Does that seem fair?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's a very
anything over
very
that,
good
you might be shooting yourself in the foot. It might be too overkill, and you just screw yourself anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. No, I'm actually supposed to take a trip in November. My wife and I were going to get out of Dodge for the whole election theater, and I'm preparing for that. Just thinking of that, all right, got to get everything on lock.
International?
I'm not going to say exactly where, but yeah.
And that I thought I was being vague enough. Well, I'll ask you after the pod.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be close, not too far away. No, it's better to be prepared than to be caught with your pants down and sort of shocked and scrambling at a moment in the future, and you'll regret it if you don't prepare. And I'm just saying this from experience, legit anxiety. And I know that's why you started Final Message, correct?
Yeah, I was about to say that's the whole idea of Final Message came around. Just oh my god, if I fall off the skateboard, I'm fucked. And then one time I remember we were I was going to Thanksgiving. I was going to Thanksgiving 2017 probably. Thanksgiving 2017. and I had my whole family in the car. And I was like, if this car crashes, it's all gone. There's no, the redundancy was not correct. I did not have the redundancy set up properly for that situation.
Yeah. This is...
You got to think it through. Get paranoid, but not too paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. Don't overthink it and make it so you shoot yourself in the foot. But just think about it. Again, these are the responsibilities that come with the extreme ownership of the digital bear asset that is Bitcoin. So be aware. This is a big be aware episode. This was interesting. I've been looking at this dashboard. Doesn't seem like they're disclosing too much information. I like the flows into
Are you on a
from the
VPN?
exchange. Not right now because we're recording.
Okay, so Chain Analysis officially got an extra IP address of a Bitcoiner. So that's an accomplishment.
Lovely.
Yeah, so I think part of it is that reason. I think they're trying to. So this is Chain Analysis historically has kept all of their products behind door and key. So you had to be a paying subscriber. Super high fee is like $100,000, $125,000 a year.
You should have put a warning in the show notes.
And they log.
I just got.
It clearly shows chainanalysis.com, bro.
I know, but I thought.
I was gonna give the freaks a warning. You know,
I'm not as paranoid as you.
Don't go there without a VPN or on Tor. But now they have a public dashboard. It's like, it's the charts are pretty cool.
It's nothing. It's not the juicy data you want to see. They have though.
Yeah, but they're a surveillance firm, so it's definitely to collect information on people who visit it.
They surveillance firm that lost a man to the good side.
Oh yeah, the Square Crypto new grantee.
Yeah, he's going to be focusing on design, correct? UI and UX design.
Yeah, did you see Jeremy Rubin wanted him to give us a mea culpa?
Yes, I did.
He didn't respond though. Thor didn't respond. I liked the Square Crypto tweet was like, he's working on Bitcoin now to atone for his sins. I like to think he was reading the Bent and you were like, how can you live with yourself?
Hey, if you're working in one of these companies, look within. What are you doing? What are you helping? You're helping an evil state. Go listen to the episode I had with Whitney Webb that I dropped last night. You're helping those people that we talked about. Just know that.
Well, anyway, it's good on a positive note. It's good to see him leave Chain Analysis.
Yes. And actually, I was on the Hablemos de Bitcoin show.
Satoshi in Venezuela, right?
Yeah, but it's like the Wednesday show is like Hablemos de Bitcoin. And no, we talked about this too. Like, do you see the benefit of them sort of highlighting where the pain points are and where we need to improve them? Are they a net benefit in the long run? In that regard,
they're not. They're just are. They just exist. They're not a net benefit. They're not a net negative. It's like if the capability exists, someone's gonna do it, and they can still go fuck themselves. And the solution is to fuck their business model, not to ask them to find reason and morality. You know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they got this dashboard. If you guys want to go see some cool charts of exchange flows and shit like that, make sure you're using a VPN. Don't fuck up like Uncle Marty just did. It's out there. I'm gonna open it at noon or after that one. This was really cool. Again, very underrated Bitcoiner in my mind. Somebody who I was lucky and am lucky to call a friend. Got really close before I became a New Yorker. Leo Zhang, in conjunction with Karthik Venkatesh, put out a piece last week called "The Alchemy of Hash Power." I wrote about it in the Bent on Monday. Excuse me for that burp, but it's part one of I believe a 2 or 3 part series, and it's just dives into the dynamics of the mining world, particularly how miners look at their break-even prices break-even levels based on at what point they bought their hardware, when they plugged it in, where the hash rate is, where the Bitcoin price is, And if you're somebody who's interested in learning more about like the economy, the economics that go into mining and the variables that miners are thinking about, this is an incredible piece. And I think Leo particularly has a very good grasp on the mining industry and how hash power and the hardware sort of go together with price and difficulty at any given point in time. And he really put out, I think this piece is going to be helpful for miners, especially endeavoring miners, and hand up at GAM, like looking at some of the formulas he put together for like days to break even, and adding in sensitivity to Bitcoin price based on the model of the ASIC. It's really well done, and I think this piece in the series is going to help people better understand the mining industry. And as the mining industry matures, becomes a little bit more transparent and more professional, one of the biggest hurdles that we face at GAM is convincing prospective investors that it's worthwhile. And it's because of a lack of insight into, it has been because of a lack of insight into like break-even points and the collateral that you can get within this space. And I think Leo's doing a great job to sort of help push that ball forward and make it easier for miners to prove that they can create legitimate businesses.
I thought the graphics were really cool as well, like his visualizations.
Yeah, the heat map, like the correlation chart, the machine price versus network metrics. I really like the sensitivity to Bitcoin price chart. That was a pretty jarring chart. The M20S looks like a pretty solid machine. Very happy we chose those at GAM.
The what's miners.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that was just like the first half of the article. Second half gets into hedging products and strategies that could be deployed, which is another part of getting funding, is proving that you could hedge some risk in this market. And Leo lays out some strategies that can be deployed and what products you can access to deploy them. So huge shout out to Leo.
Cheers.
What he's doing at Anasa Research it's been incredible so far. I think this is only his second piece, maybe his third piece, but he's putting out very high quality.
The second one.
Yeah.
Three Body Problem was the first one. Yeah.
And this is a sign of the maturation of Bitcoin and the legitimization of Bitcoin and the professionalism that is developing within the space. Mining historically has been very opaque and non-transparent, and more content like this, it just makes Bitcoin overall more legitimate in my mind. So go check it out. And I think part 2 should be dropping soon too, so be on the lookout for that. And if you're not following Leo, I think he's criminally underfollowed in the space. Go find him. I think it's at Leo Zhang, Zhang, on Twitter.
Yeah.
Maybe Leo R. Zhang.
Leo R. Zhang.
Yeah.
Leo's great.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff this week. Not too many updates. We got a few updates, but something I wrote about today that dropped earlier this week, 2 days ago, I believe. Our boy, we mentioned it earlier in the episode, Shesik dropped. See, you have it. Where are we going with Minshik?
Oh, I put an I in there, right?
Yeah, you put Mini. Minsk.
Mini
Minsk?
SC, I put.
Yeah, it's MINSC, but basically it's a mini script. It's a mini script based scripting language. I want to actually talk about this for a while and expand on what I talked about in the Bent today, because I think this is huge and really sort of confirms the conservative approach to development that Bitcoiners, or that the Bitcoin project has, right? Like, his Vitalik was focused on Bitcoin. He started Bitcoin Magazine. He was talking to Satoshi and BitcoinTalk.org, trying to push Bitcoin forward. And he's got sort of frustrated that Bitcoin's scripting language wasn't as robust as he wanted it to be in 2013, 2014. And the development mentality of the Bitcoin Core developers is like, hey, let's slow and steady. Let's not break anything. Let's make sure everything's as scalable, efficient, and robust as possible. And all these things will be nice to haves in the future. And Dav Shesik dropping Minsk, I think, is just a confirmation of that mentality and that approach. Like so what this is a scripting language that basically makes it a lot easier to create complex smart contracts on top of Bitcoin. So you can do things like create something similar to Green Wallet's 2FA, something similar to like HTLCs, creating pre-images for them, and you're just going to be able to construct Bitcoin transactions that do pretty, what's the correct word, expressive things, and get pretty granular. And it just makes Bitcoin more programmable at the end of the day. So that was a huge meme for Ethereum early on. It was like programmable money. And people would say, oh, Bitcoin will never do that. But as I've been saying on this podcast and the newsletter for a while, like anything these altcoins can do will probably eventually get brought into Bitcoin in one way or another. And this sort of proves that correct, at least in my mind. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, it's more limited, but that's a feature, not a bug.
Yes. That's why I quoted Luke Childs in the Bent today. He said, compare it to Solidity, which is the scripting language that Ethereum created to create their smart contracts. I'm not even sure if they use Solidity anymore. I think they might move on to something else, but if they did, they had to because Solidity was so shit. I think Luke Childs said something like Minsk is easy to write and very hard to fuck up, where Solidity is hard to write and easy to fuck up. So just a very good approach to this type of development. And
this doesn't need any soft fork or anything, right?
no, it's based off a mini script, which I think just dump into the transactions.
As per soft fork, though, we still have Taproot activation hopefully coming up sooner rather than later. And BitMEX Research did a really good explainer on activation methods that we could go through.
Yes, let's go through it. They had a good one, and Aaron Van Weirdum had a good one as well.
We went over Aaron's last time, so I don't even think we need to necessarily go through this BitMEX piece, but it's nice that you have another perspective. Basically, it's the same idea as Aaron's piece.
Yes, just walking it through. So it goes into like BitBait, which was proposed by Luke Dasher, and so I like this particular whatever you want to call it, chart, not a chart, but a gradient. I can't even describe it correctly.
Are we on the BitMEX article?
Yeah, I'm looking at smooth upgrade, significant issues, total, that part.
Oh yeah, it's like a table, right?
A table. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. So that was historical activation methods. Like how many smooth upgrades that we have. We have 8 that were flag days that rolled out with immediate effect. Only 1 significant issue. So there are 9 altogether with that activation method. 8 were smooth. 1 was an issue. We've had 1 activation that needed to meet a 55% minor threshold. 1 that needed to meet 80%, and 5 that needed 95% of miners to signal they're ready. 4 of those were smooth. 1 had significant issues. And so grand total, there's been 16 upgrades, big upgrades. 13 of them went smooth, 3 not so smooth. And so that's like the big debate going on right now. How do we make sure that Taproot Schnorr is a smooth upgrade? And like we mentioned last week, AJ Towns, Matt Corallo were starting the conversation on the mailing list. That's sort of leaked out onto social media and Telegram groups, and I'll just say, like, being in a few miner Telegram groups, it seems like the miners just want the users to download software and Signal and
just flag day it.
Yeah, and if other miners aren't ready, like, too bad for them. Like, that's at least the gist I got in some of these conversations in these rooms.
The main complaint there is, right, that it's like creates a de facto
fork.
Well, no, like a de facto developer-led process.
Yes, that's what Macroeconomy is worried about. That's what he wrote in on the mailing list in response to AJ Towns last week. And Z-Man responded to Matt. I forget exactly what Z-Man said, but Matt's gist was like, hey, we're setting a precedent here. Yes, it seems like this is a no-brainer upgrade, but will this precedent allow...
If you put the flag day far enough ahead of time, you put the flag day in a year, 2 years ahead of time, and then you just watch everyone upgrading, right? And like, if we don't hear any real complaints about it, there's been no like really structured good arguments against why not to do Taproot.
Yes.
It doesn't seem that dangerous to me. Like, if you just go for it. I mean, it's like impossible to get 95% of miners to fucking all Signal. It's just, that's such a high threshold. So then what, do you lower that threshold, and then are you even solving anything than just doing a regular flag day?
Well, is it that hard to hit? Like, would the signaling be done via pools? Would the pools be a proxy for signaling?
I mean, look at when we tried to hit the threshold for SegWit. Even
but like, you had F2 pool like fucking switching their version bits.
Yeah,
like,
well, you don't expect that
off.
to happen again. We couldn't they couldn't even. They had trouble getting it on Litecoin, and it was even more centralized.
Yeah, but that was much more controversial. There's an argument to be made that this could be more profitable for miners, so that they might not. Then
why even have them signal then?
Yeah, I don't. Well, again, like we mentioned, Matt and other. I don't want to signal Matt out here. Some developers are worried about the precedent, and
yeah,
it's good to have these debates, but the debate needs to end at some point, and we need to put forth an activation path.
The other thing about the mining signaling is, like, I'm pretty sure F2 Pool was trading off of it. Because, like, Litecoin, do you remember, like, Litecoin and Bitcoin were, like, pumping and dumping depending on how close we were to, like, the sites were put up where you could, like, track it, and, like, how close we were to signaling, and he'd, like, bring it really close, and then he'd dump it, and then he'd put it back up. Like, it gives these big pools, it gives them, like, a decent amount of power.
Yeah.
Power corrupts.
If you get caught in the wrong, yeah.
But there was no risk for F2 Pool. When they were just playing with the activation logic, what was the risk? They weren't taking any risk.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in my head right now, how's the game theory play out now that there are more SHA-256 chains like Bcash and BSV? Could they profit switch and fuck with it too?
No, I think those are just... those are dead chains. Those are zombie chains.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's just a waste of time to even put them in any kind of calculations. You think any legitimate miner is switching over to Bcash or SV?
I mean, I think Poolin does profit switching. It's a pretty big pool. And I know the Luxor guys talk about it too. I'm not sure if they do it.
You're going to disclose on the pod that GAM only mines SV. You guys are a purely SV operation.
No, I will disclose that we use Slush Pool. And Slush Pool has historically been very
pro miner,
pro miner, pro Bitcoin particularly. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say I'm okay. Like in that mining group too. Like I sort of agreed. I was like, yeah, just let full node operators download the software, run it, and let that be the signal. Then you get into the question is the precedent. Like,
well, you have two different versions of the software: one that flags days and one that doesn't, right?
Yes. And then there's like the whole question of, all right, if the flag day, we hit the flag day and it doesn't activate, how long do you wait to attempt it again? And I know Matt has proposed, I believe in January, like a 6-month debate and then a reattempt.
He's saying minor signaling first, and then if that doesn't work, then 6-month debate, right?
Yes, yeah.
Taproot is like, it sets up so many potential upgrades that we could have in the future that we just need to get it done.
I agree. Believe me, I agree 100%. I think, Segwit just scarred the shit out of everybody. Everybody's just like, so nobody wants to be the one.
Yeah, this is what I said.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like we're creating a controversy over it. You know, like we're creating the situation we don't want because we're just so much PTSD from the last one.
Yeah.
I even saw, like, did you see that Reddit comment from GMAX? He was just like losing it. He was like, we just need it all right already.
Right? And well, Schadenfreude, if you're listening, come back and just like propose something.
Who says he ever left?
Right? And come back under Schadenfreude and dump something on us. Like, I would download that and run that version. I would upgrade to the version that's and this is all backwards compatible too. Like, I don't see, again, I don't like if it were to activate. I don't know. What do you freaks think? Let us know in the comments. I'm sure some of you have smarter ideas about this activation path than I do. There is a window of opportunity too. I hope we don't squander that. Especially if we get into a chaotic bull market. And that's another thing to take into consideration if you do run into a bull market. Like, do you remember, like, talking to devs? It's just like people get so distracted by the price that they can't even focus on
that
working.
one day that we just went up like 12%. I got no work done that day. Did you get any work done that day? It was like ridiculous.
No. I think I got the Ben out at like 3:30. I was like, fuck.
I was like, oh, right, this is what it's like. And then, like, the Twitter was completely useless. Telegram was, like, everything, all the channels were all backed up.
Yeah. All right. That was activation talk for this week. I'm sure there will be plenty more in the future, so we won't bore you too much today.
We're going to be talking about it for years.
Oh, I hope not. We said there weren't that many upgrades this week, but there are some. If you're running a MyNode, they have upgraded the version. It's not in the release notes, but it's in the link. Version 0.2.12, and that comes... Or no, they're up version 0.2.13. Looks like they just snuck in. They upgraded Caravan, upgraded RTL. They had some bug fixes and refactoring. They added the Thunder Hub. They upgraded Spectre. Decreased CPU usage when Electrum Wild is using MyNode, which is huge. I've had that problem myself. And a bunch of other small little updates. So if you're running MyNode, consider upgrading if you want those updates. Tor browser has a new release, version 9.5.3. Should we just roll this right into the 0-day disclosures?
This is unrelated to the 0 days, though.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The update just updates Firefox, NoScript, and Tor. Brings them all up to date.
Yeah, but it was brought to our attention right before we came on air. Shout out to No Bullshit Bitcoin. That 2 Tor 0 days have been brought to light by a researcher, and he or she, I'm not sure the gender right now, plans on releasing 3 more, I believe. And this said something to being able to like docs or DDoS nodes or something like that, or take nodes off the network.
No, both vulnerabilities are detecting that a user is trying to access the Tor network and blocking them from doing that from the ISP level.
Blocking the user.
So the first vulnerability, you can detect that they're connecting to Tor, and you can block them from connecting to Tor. And then Tor, that goes to a Tor guard node, which is like the entry nodes into the network. And then Tor has bridge nodes, which are designed in these oppressive regimes where users are getting blocked out. from accessing. They had these bridge nodes, and this guy claims that he can detect the access to the bridge nodes, so then you can block them from the bridge nodes. So they're very much related. But obviously this is more relevant for places where you can't access the Tor network, where your government is blocking it to begin with.
Yeah. And again, this hacker's claiming to have 3 more 0 days that will be revealed at some point in the future. So be on the lookout for those. And for those of you freaks who are hearing the phrase 0 day and wondering what the fuck is that, a 0 day vulnerability is basically a bug that's been in the code and been overlooked since the inception of the software. Am I correct with that definition, Matt?
No, a 0 day is a bug that hasn't been responsibly disclosed.
Hasn't been responsibly disclosed? I
I'm
thought it was
pretty
just
sure
like,
that's what it means. Yeah.
okay.
So like if you responsibly disclose something and there's like 60 days that the company knows about it before you go public with it. But if it's a 0 day, there's been 0 days that the company knew about it. I believe that's what a 0 day means.
Oh, I always thought it was 0 day. No, you're right. I just looked it up. I always assumed it was 0 day in the sense that it was included in the code since day 0, since launch.
Yeah.
But you're
0
correct.
days, like it's got to get fixed right now.
Yeah. So, and it's not fixed in this latest version of Tor. Again, we found out about this right before.
Well, this guy said that which is more troubling, right, is he said that he's had issues trying to responsibly disclose the bugs, and that's why he's going public with it.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked.
That's not great to see, but who knows? I mean, yeah. Tor is not perfect by any means. This is one of the reasons, Tor is very... It has mixed emotions in my heart. It's both one of the most important projects we have, and then I just have no faith in it whatsoever.
Yeah. You talk to some people like Brian Lockhart and Gleb Nalmenko. I've talked to them about Tor. They swear against it, like it's CIA honey trap. You can't trust it.
Yeah, but without Tor, we have no Bitcoin privacy.
I know. In a worst case, it's just as bad as ClearNet, right?
I mean, look, it's definitely not as bad as ClearNet, I would say. My uneducated opinion.
But worst case.
Yeah.
Like if it is completely.
Well, no, I mean,
bunk.
if you're accessing a ClearNet site through Tor and it goes through an exit node, it could be worse than ClearNet from a security point of view, but not from a privacy point of view.
From a privacy point of view, it would be worse than ClearNet because you'd be using it under the assumption that you're private.
And you'd be using if it's not an HTTPS site, it's not an SSL site, you're using their exit node, they can manipulate the data that's in between you and the website because you're basically man-in-the-middling yourself. That's why you should always use onion sites if it's important, if it's not just read-only information on Tor. Fortunately, with the new Tor browser, it's pretty cool. You can broadcast that you have an onion site. So if you go to blockstream.info, it says onion site, then you just click on the address bar onion site, and it goes to the onion site, which is dope.
Yeah.
For UX-wise.
Be aware, freaks, be aware. We're going to link to, what do we link to, the ZNet article?
Yeah, let's just link to the ZDNet overview, and then in there's links to the specific disclosures if you want to go check it out.
Yeah. We actually already hit these topics on the bottom of the list. Now we get to celebrate you. Ninja launching a site yesterday. Launched with a lot of fanfare. Stop it. Stop being so humble.
I was emotional support.
You're staying humble.
Dennis Ryman reached out. So actually, I discovered GitHub sponsors, first of all. We'll start in the beginning. A day ago, I discovered Bitcoin sponsors because 2 days ago, I discovered GitHub sponsors because someone mentioned it in my mentions. They tagged me in this whole post about it. And then someone else was Jeremy Rubin, Luke Dasher, Fanquake, they all have GitHub sponsors enabled. So then I went and I checked which Bitcoin-related devs had GitHub sponsors enabled, which is GitHub sponsors is like a Patreon thing that's run through GitHub, which is now owned by Microsoft. Microsoft takes no fees for it. It's obviously credit card. They KYC the dev, and Microsoft takes no fees for it. And if the dev signed up before January of this year, Microsoft matches everything. So you sign up for Jeremy's $25 a month, and Microsoft's giving him $25 a month too. It doubles. But even if it's not before then, it's nice. There's no fees. And then obviously, so I saw that and I was like, well, this is awesome. And we were pumping. So like I got super excited. I was like, everyone is like throwing their dick around on the table. I was like, it'd be nice if some of these people that are throwing their dick around on the table, like American Hodl, like fucking supported some of the devs that could use our support, right? So I started going through and I collated all the GitHub sponsors and I made a thread for it. Then, of course, I was immediately filled with, we shouldn't be supporting Bitcoin devs through credit cards and Microsoft and them doing KYC. Like, that's just, it's like antithetical to Bitcoin. So
it's a bad look if you don't offer the other option, right?
Right. So I was like, but the problem with Bitcoin, the problem with the Bitcoin donations is like they're all scattered. Like the nice thing about the GitHub sponsors is you go to a repository, you go to BTC Pay, and you can see all of the devs on there that have GitHub sponsors enabled. So the Bitcoin donations are all sporadic all over the place. So then I was talking on Twitter. I was like, someone needs to make a landing page that just collates all of these donation pages for different devs. Just like a very simple aggregation site. And Dennis reached out and we built it in like 4 hours. He had like a template all ready to go. And now any dev that wants to be on it can just submit a pull request with the information. We're doing like the loosest screening ever. So there is a disclaimer on the top, like it's not an endorsement of the specific devs, but like you'll have a central spot where you're able to go and see all their donation links with the little bio and a link to their GitHub and a link to their Twitter. And it's bitcoindevlist.com, which was a domain I already had. So I put it to good use. Go support the devs. They could use our support.
I'm proud of you, brother. It's an incredible site. I'm very happy that it was well received by the community as well. It's something that's long. I mean, people have been talking about it for a while, and kudos to you. Thank you for taking the bull by the horns and just fucking doing it with Dennis. Shout out to you and Dennis.
Yeah, shout out Dennis. Dude fucking made it happen.
Yeah, you know what? If not you, then who? If not me, then who? All of you freaks listening to this have that mentality. That came out of nowhere. You teased that and agreed. You're like, yo, I'm thinking about launching this. Don't show anybody. And then like half an hour later, it was on Twitter. I was like, boss.
Yeah, we were like, okay. We think this is pretty good. Let's send it to our peers. So like I sent it to you and like Dennis sent it to some people. And then we were like 15, 20 minutes later, he's like, I got to do this thing. And I was like, I got to do this thing. He's like, should we YOLO or should we wait tomorrow to launch? I was like, YOLO. We're YOLOing. And just like posted it.
Well, that's
it's
the way
so
to do it.
rewarding just fucking getting it out there right away, just like getting it fucking done. And because it's all hosted on GitHub, people can go and contribute and iterate from there, So we have something up, and if we want to change it, we can just iterate out in the open.
You're talking to one of the biggest fans of baptism by fire. So, again, kudos to you. Thank you for doing that. I talk to a lot of the guests building stuff on Bitcoin, and often thank them. I need to thank you for taking initiative here, and it's great. The devs love it, which is, quote unquote problem. That's the beauty. Like we talked earlier about, like, smart contracts will never be good on Bitcoin, and dev incentives was always.
There was like 4 different people in my announcement tweet that were like dev incentives. Like, what if devs need this? if dev needs you to make a donation site, then Bitcoin's fucked.
It's like, no, they don't need it. It's nice to have, though.
Yeah, they haven't had a site like this for the whole time, right?
Yeah.
I just love, we have so many different avenues for dev funding now, and it's really nice to have this little, like, this one's, it's more distributed and anarchy than than the other ones. The other ones are more structured, and this is a way for like individuals to give directly. And specifically Bitcoin donations is super fucking cool. I like, that's the best donation ever, that you can just send someone fucking sats through the
I believe last week you were saying you're not a cypherpunk because you don't write code. I believe you wrote code this week and launched it. You're a cypherpunk. Cypherpunks. They write code, brother.
One day.
Yeah, that's all we got for the topics other than the economy, which had a pretty big announcement this morning. The GDP Q2 was down 32.6%, I believe.
It's like our worst GDP fall ever. Or since 40s or something.
No, by like 3x.
No, I'm saying since like 1940.
I think this is like twice as bad as then even. It wasn't even that bad then. Pretty crazy. And so you couple that with the fact that the Fed's coming out. Zero Hedge wrote an article last night. It's becoming more apparent that commercial real estate industry may be getting a $550 billion bailout, either from the Fed or the Treasury. So money printer is about to go burr even more than it has. Things are getting heady, man.
That's for commercial real estate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, commercial real estate is absolutely fucked. Like, no one's doing offices anymore.
Yeah. So they may be getting a bailout. We talked about it last week, but the posturing has remained throughout this week, and the Fed is even posturing in a different way where they don't even want to talk about thinking. I think that's what Jerome Powell said this week. He doesn't want to talk about even thinking about moving rates up. So, like, moving rates up is not even a thought in their mind.
Remember when they bullshitted about raising rates, like, what was it, like 8 months ago or something? 10 months ago?
Yeah.
Like fall of 2019?
Yeah.
They, like, raised it once. I was like, they can't do it.
Dude, they raised it. It's 2019, yeah. End of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Did they raise it twice? They did like 2 little raises?
I think twice or 3 times, and then like the liquidity crunch
like,
was such. They're like, all right, we need to cut it back down. I don't like to laugh about it, dude. It's serious.
Well, like, it is what it is, Marty. You know, we can laugh about it because of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin didn't exist, we would just be crying.
That's true. It's very true. But it's freaks. They're talking about dire situations here. Like, I tweeted out a few months ago, like, hyperinflation may be around the corner. I got a lot of shit for it. Like, I would not be surprised. Another 1.4 million people applied for unemployment this week. I think in totality throughout this crisis, 31.5 million have applied for unemployment at one point or another.
And they announced a new stimulus check, right? $1,200 or no?
They announced the intention. They're debating whether it's 1,200, 2,000. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, they're debating what the exact amount is, and then on top of that, they're debating. So that's the big thing right now. Actually, is the unemployment bump of $600. They're talking about whether or not to extend that or bump it down to $200, which they have to make a decision in the next few hours. I'm pretty sure
the $200 bump failed too, I think.
Did it?
Yeah.
I mean, so it ends. Does July have 31 days? Yes, yeah. So it ends like after tomorrow. Thank God we have Bitcoin.
I know, it'd be way less. I don't know. It's just crazy times, you know. But this is where opportunity lies, right? Are these crazy times?
That is true. That is true.
So you got to look at it from the exciting angle, I think.
That is very true. I like that. I like that angle.
I mean, I really want, like, my overarching theme is, 2 themes, right? I'm trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible here, which has been an outstanding goal for a while. And I'm trying to buy land. And it was crazy, like a year ago, when I told my peers in the city, like, oh, I want to buy land, like, way outside of the city. They all thought I was crazy. And now it's like a super crowded trade. It's like everyone has, you know, COVID, like, completely blew up our spot, because I know you have a similar plan. I wonder what I find myself thinking about is like, how does that dynamic play out here? If we have the U.S. dollar, spiraling out of control and printing, just crazy printing into this, we're going to see asset prices go up, right? And Bitcoin's going to go up, but like, what happens to land prices? How does that? Do we see a real estate crash, or do we overarching real estate crash, or do we see like a, select sectors of real estate crash, right? Like commercial city real estate versus
rural
versus suburb versus movie theater businesses. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be a very crazy market. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Am I gonna be forced to buy New York City real estate because everything else is crazy inflated?
No, you just got to buy Kodak stock before the government announces that they're giving them a $800 million loan.
How the fuck does that why would Kodak make medicine?
Because they were a dead company, right? So they might
It
as well.
doesn't make,
it was insider trading, 101, right? 100%.
Yeah, didn't the CEO buy 47,000 shares or something in June?
Yeah, late June. He didn't know about it yet.
This doesn't make any sense to me.
But I wouldn't be surprised if government insiders bought on it too.
Oh, definitely.
It went up 1,400% or something insane.
Cantillionaires. We got corrected on YouTube. I'm not sure if you're
Cantillionaires.
No, not Cantillion. Cantillon. We got yelled at on YouTube in the YouTube.
That's
comments.
what I originally said, right?
I think you were right. Yeah, I was wrong.
You told me Cantillon.
Cantillon. I like Cantillon. That's the way I've been saying
Dick
it.
Cantillon.
Cantillon.
I'm cool with
the Cantillionaires, the Cantillionism rages on. That's the other thing. So let's end it on this. Trump posturing today he didn't posture like he's going to. He asked, should we postpone the election? Should we? It's crazy times, dude.
Of course he did the fucking question mark, right? To cover his ass.
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to hide the GDP numbers.
Oh, that's a good theory.
He tweeted it out right as the GDP numbers hit.
Should we postpone the election? It's insane, man.
I'm not cool with postponing the elections, by the way.
Neither am I. And, that announcement did not make any sense to me. That's why I think it's maybe a bait.
But it makes sense with the GDP.
It makes sense with the GDP, but it doesn't compute with his send all the kids back to school mentality.
Right?
If you're willing to send all the kids back to school, why wouldn't you allow people to vote?
He's open up everything except the election boxes.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
It makes the most sense that it's just a distraction for the GDP thing, because the tweet went out 5 minutes after the GDP numbers got released.
That's all anybody was talking about.
Yeah, it was it was exact timing.
Yeah. I mean, I do have questions about the mail-in ballots, but even so, you gotta let people. If you're gonna have kids going back to school, you gotta let people go to the polls.
Well, the problem with mail-in ballots, the reason we have polling offices, and this is also the problem with phone voting, is the reason we have a secret public ballot is because you can go and vote without a boss or a spouse or someone either buying your vote and being able to verify how you voted, or pressuring you into voting for someone. If you're trying to buy someone's vote or pressure someone's vote, and they go into a voting booth and you can't go in there with them, you never know for sure if they went along with what you were pressuring. But if they do it in front of you on a mail-in vote or on a phone screen, then they can do that. But that's alleviated a bit if you allow them to override their mail-in vote by also going in if they want to, which a lot of states do. So if they got pressured and they put a vote in the mail, then they could go later on and go to the secret vote. And
how do they cross-reference that, though? That seems especially on the night of the election.
I mean, all of these things, when you start.
This is why I'm getting the fuck out of town for the election. Because
especially
after that conversation with Whitney last night, they've been choreographing there's going to be some fuckery with the election for over a year now.
The number one thing with election things is you want to have a paper record. So if shit hits the fan, you can go back and look at the paper. All these electric voting machines, they're closed source. They're run by these companies that are involved in the political system themselves, like Diebold and shit. It's like a fucking scary ass rabbit hole. So, like, before we even get to the point where, like, yes, like all the machines should be open source and all this shit, they should at least, if you have a digital machine, it should print out like a little receipt that shows how you voted. You should be able to look at that receipt, and you should be able to stick it in a metal box yourself. A paper receipt that you can verify and you can put into it like a metal box. That's the only way you can keep. It's super simple, and it's the only way you can keep it
right.
honest.
That's why, like, if you're gonna vote, if you're gonna do the whole voting and polls thing, just do the whole punch card thing. That's been working.
The hanging Chad.
Yeah, just like.
Do you remember the hanging Chad?
The what?
The hanging Chad in Florida in 2000.
No, what was that?
The punches weren't going full, so they were making determinations on how much of the Chad was hanging off versus
the hanging Chad.
Yeah.
Did Al
in New
Gore
York?
actually
In New York,
win?
it was Scantron.
There's got to be a better way.
In New York, you did a Scantron, and then they gave you a paper receipt, and then you put it in the receipt box. You verified it yourself and put it in the receipt box.
Freaks, just get every one of your family members and friends to start buying Bitcoin. We can walk away from these. It's a fucking circus. It's a circus, and they use it to manipulate everybody's emotions. I mean, today's a perfect example of that. And today, that announcement, especially after the conversation with Whitney Webb last night, has me like, whoa, are they going to fuck around with the election? And use that as an excuse to implement martial law. And I'm not going to eat crow, but I will say I am rethinking the federal agents and cities comments from last week after that. Like, hey, maybe this is setting the precedent for something like that.
They're fucking around in New York now, too.
Yeah, definitely thinking twice about it. I will say that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else?
Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's all we got this week, freaks. Peace and love.